And there we go again. I was able to save my phone. So let's pick a test point between 2 and 3 and see which one of these functions, between 2 and 4, which would be 3. And let's see which one of these functions is going to be more. So if I plug in a 3 into this function, what do I get? 3 times 9, which is 27, plus 5 times 3, which is 15, plus 3. The function g at 3 is going to get me 3 squared, which is 9, plus 16 times 3 is something. I'll figure it out in a minute. Minus 9. Ooh. So that's 30, 48. Do you think that might get us more than 48? No, that's actually a 45. That's 30, 45. So there you have it. On this function from 2 to 4, which one's higher? The function g. So from 2 to 4, it's going to be a g of x minus f of x. And then from 4 to 5, I don't want to really plug in 4.5, but I know they're swapping. So obviously, this f of x will be more than g of x, right? You can actually, by the way, plug in 5. You don't have to have it right in between. 5 was not an intersection point. Don't plug in 4, because at 4, they're equal to each other. Yes, well, you can plug in 5, and you will see that the function f of x pulls away. Good. So the integral from 2 to 4, g of x minus f of x. I'm just going to do this in my head. G of x minus f of x. So 1x squared minus 3x squared is negative 2x squared. 16x minus 5x is positive 11x. And negative 9 minus 3 is negative 12. Okay, there I have it. Now, from 4 to 5, it was backwards, so all these terms are going to have the exact opposite signs. So I'm copying them with opposite signs. This is going to be a negative 2x to the third over 3, 11x squared over 2, minus 12x. Between 2 and 4, so there's going to be quite a bit of plugging in. So you should hope for definitely a little bit better problems on the homework. Well, a little bit better, let's just say. That's what it is. Find the antiderivatives. Plug in, yeah, I wasn't in no mood to plug in these values. Plug in the 4, right? Minus plug in the 2, plus plug in the 5. Minus plug in the 4. They're not going to cancel out because one's going to be a positive and one's going to be a minus. So if anything, they'll be the same, but turn back positive both. Okay. So I'm going to just let you finish this. It's just a computation. I just wanted to give you one more practice on what happens when the functions are crossing. So we're just going to do one little quick wordy application, and here it is. I'm going to say a country's imports are given by this function. F of x is equal, or f of t, fine, is equal to 20 e to the 0.1 t. And the exports are given by g of x is equal to 10 e to the 0.05 t. Okay, both in billions of dollars. Okay, so it says, let t be years since 2010, and we want to find the country's accumulated deficit find the country's accumulated deficit between the years 2012 and 2015. Okay. Now, these are exponential functions. And if you were to graph them both at time 0, in other words, 2010, e to the 0 is 1, right? So you start at 20. And this function here, again, at time 0, e to the 0 is 1, times 10 is 10. So, and also this is going up faster. So, between 2012 and 2015, then you got this space trapped in between here. So sure enough, it's going to be a deficit. Why? Because as you see, this country's imports are higher than the country's exports. So they're spending more than what they're producing. So I have to find the integral from what to what. Between 2012 and 2015 means how many years since 2010? 2 to 5 years later, yes? Which one's the above function? Well, it's going to be the imports function. Minus, which one's the below function? Well, it's the exports function. And that one's a dt. Okay. All right, so let's just find the antiderivatives. That's it. So that's a 20 e to the 0.1 t divided by 0.1 in between 2 and 5 minus the antiderivative, or fine, you can put the whole thing at the very end, or you can split it up here. It doesn't matter. That's a 10 e to the 0.05 t divided by 0.05. Find the whole thing between 2 and 5. Okay. I'm even going to fix this a bit. 20 divided by 0.1 is 200. E to the 0.1 t minus 10 divided by 0.05 is also 200. E to the 0.05 t. Plug in a 5 and plug in a 2. So that's 200 e to the 0.5 minus 200 e to the 0.25 minus, plug in a 2, so that's 200 e to the 0.2 minus 200 e to the 0.1. So put that in your calculator. By the way, you could have factored out the 200 and I have to keep dragging it over and over again. But I put that in my calculator. That wasn't that much. So that's 49.69, not dollars, but what? Billions of dollars deficit in 3 years. And there you go. That's your section 5.6.